Everyone, welcome to Next Up Live. This is Nextsoft's live interview series, and this is the very second episode of that. So what we're doing is we're taking a dive into our areas of expertise, the industries of cybersecurity and fintech, APIs and the like, everything in between. And we're getting a behind-the-scenes look at what's going on at Nextsoft, because I'm interviewing Nextsoft employees and figuring out what they're working on, some of their projects, and I hope that's of interest to you guys. So this morning, it's my honor to introduce Bobby Childs. I've got Bobby here with me, and Bobby is the Vice President of Business Development at Nextsoft. Bobby, thanks for joining me.
Hey, good morning, Ben. Good morning. Thanks for having me. Appreciate everybody for joining in, checking things out today.
Yeah, thanks for your time, Bobby. So Bobby, I know, so you have been in the fintech business industry for a while now, right?
That's correct. Yeah, a good portion of my career spent, my whole career in technology, and a giant portion of all that, without dating myself, specifically in the fintech world.
Right. And I know you are a data guy. I mean, you've got a lot of really interesting things to say about data. So I really wanted to kind of start our interview there this morning. You know, one thing that we hear just at the popular level is the phrase big data a lot. Big data this, big data that. We live in a world where big data rules. But I was going to ask you to just paint a picture for us. How big is big data actually?
Yeah, I think the term is actually kind of, we get these terms of technology anywhere where we overuse them and then we come up with them, the big buzzwords like big data and the analytics, and that's great and wonderful. But this is one that we've definitely overused a lot, but we've undershot it in the size and the volume of it. The amount of data we have out there is unfathomable. In fact, just to give you kind of a number to start off with, it's 2.5 quintillion bytes of data are generated worldwide daily. So let me read this off because it's actually easier to show. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sets of zeros behind that 2.5. So a number I can't wrap my head around about how many bytes are generated in that. And that's every day generated around the world. So when we think about data and volume, I think one of the most interesting statistics when you kind of look at that is when you think about in businesses and what businesses are generating and what they're doing. So as a whole, on average, about 100 terabytes of data is stored by most U.S. companies. Period, just on an annual basis. So to give you an idea what that looks like, that's enough to fill up 10,000 libraries of Congress each year. So 10,000 Library of Congresses worth of data is generated annually and held by businesses. And that's compounded year over year over year. Matter of fact, in the past 2 years, we generated more data than we did in the previous thousands of years prior that have ever been created. So the term big data is such an undershoot of what it really is. It's not just big data, it's massive data, it's huge data, it's data everywhere.
Right. Wow. That just in the past 2 years, that stat kind of blows my mind, that just in the past 2 years, we've generated more data than we have in all previous years combined. What are businesses, you say they're storing this data, are they utilizing it? Are they able to take it and harness it the way that they want to? Or is it just sitting around?
For the most part, this data is sitting around. That's the hard part of what we're doing. It's like anything else. If you think about it, a house, my family and I, we built the house that we were in. And when we moved into this house, we had a whole lot of stuff from our previous house that we moved out of. Mm-hmm. A vast majority of which we moved into a downstairs room in the basement that we were going to go through. 3 years later, said stuff had never been gone through. We had never looked at it. In fact, when we went to go give it away to a charity, my wife actually wanted to start going through it all. And I was like, no, we're not even going to open a box. We haven't looked at it in 3 years. There's no reason. We can just get rid of it all. That's at a very small scale of a family of 4. We're talking quintillion bytes of data being generated worldwide, both personally and commercially. Now think of how much that is actually getting the box, quote unquote, opened and actually utilized. This is sitting around on old servers or on old laptops, on old machines. Some of this stuff has been taken off of an old machine and set onto an external hard drive. And a lot of it left to be collecting dust. Now, some companies are trying to get better and utilize the data that they have, but even the ones that are very proactive in this are probably really only tapping into a quarter at best of what the data they actually have. And that generates a lot of the problem. That's the gap that we have. 99% of organizations state that data is essential to business and essential to growth, but yet 88% of the whole world's data is actually ignored.
And that's what you call the data gap, right?
That is exactly Yeah, that would be our gap. So we're all talking about as a business. We ought to actually talk about that. 20. I think it's 27% of. There's a 27% growth potential just starting to utilize the data. And by utilizing it, let me explain what I mean a little bit. That's another big question out there. What do you mean by utilizing it? And that's actually taking it and learning from it. It's like anything else we do in life. If you are swinging a hammer and you have your hands too close and you hit yourself in the finger, you learn to move your hand out while you're actually trying to do the work. We're learning from it. Same things with our data. We can learn what's going on. We can learn what's going on in our society. We can learn what's going on in our industry and with our business. A perfect example of that is if most people watching this, I would assume, probably have Netflix. And as you're going through Netflix, if you go sit down tonight, at some point in time, you're going to have a suggested bar come right across the top. And it's going to be shows that maybe you'll watch, maybe you won't. But for the most part, it's going to fit into the vein of things that you like. Odds are, I would probably say that half of what you're probably watching on Netflix, you picked out of that bar. That's not by chance. That's Netflix utilizing big data analytics and the data they're sitting on and actually having the computers do all the work on these fancy algorithms to figure out where you're going, what you're doing. By doing that, Netflix has saved themselves over $1 billion annually in costs for customer retention by just keeping people watching and people looking at things that they're interested in. So you think about that and what they're saving in that, and then you think about industries that maybe aren't using that data as much, that it's just sitting around, like in our world in the financial industry. All this data, this customer data, may be just sitting on a shelf, quote unquote, that's not being utilized. And that's that big gap. We have this huge amount of data that we can utilize, but we're not utilizing it. And that's that big gap that we're breaching and not seeing the benefits from it.
So why is that there? Why is it so difficult to manage data properly? I mean, like a Netflix or an Amazon or some of those other companies, what are the challenges there?
I mean, the sheer amount of it is tough. I mean, when you're trying to manage something that's coming in at that volume, and to be quite honest, at the rate that we create data today, whether that's personal data via our phones or our laptops or an iPad, whatever that may be, or data within our industry and whatnot, it is just absolute mind-blowing what we're generating. So the sheer volume is number one, probably the biggest challenge of that. The second one is actually meaningful data. So with that large amount of volume, a lot of that data is not meaningful or not meaningful for what you're wanting to do in your business. If you're looking to look at something for revenue growth or efficiencies, static data is not going to do you a whole lot of help in that. You have to have the right and meaningful data. So not only do you have to be able to manage large volumes, you also have to be able to sort through what's good, bad, ugly. Then you have data from multiple sources, which means it's in multiple formats and it's coming in. Again, in the financial world, we've got data coming in from mobile banking. We've got data coming in from our LOS system. We've got data coming in from bill pay, all flowing back through. And these multiple sources create multiple data lakes and silos. And then last but not least, we really get poor quality data where it's just in bad shape. Maybe it's missing, or even get it inaccessible completely. Maybe it was encrypted forever ago and we never dealt with it. Maybe it's stuck out on a server somewhere that thing could be older than some people's kids. There's so many different ways that create challenges for people to really utilize that.
Absolutely. So yeah, it's interesting that we are collecting so much data really because we can, but yet we don't really quite have a plan often for how to leverage it. So what, if I were a business owner and I'm watching this and I'm thinking, wow, yeah, I absolutely have that data gap. I have so much data I'm sitting on and I'm not really using it. I'm not sorting it right. Maybe it's bad data, maybe it's incomplete or it's not accessible. How do I leverage that? How do I better do that?
Yeah, I mean, that's the challenge of it. If you think of like your phone right now, everybody and their brother has a cell phone. Some people, there for a while in mine professionally, I carried two. I had a personal one and a company phone, and that was miserable to do. If you think about it, I'm a gadget guy, so I love new things. I like to get a new phone, I like to get a new tablet, whatever it may be. It's just fun. It kind of makes me all excited and whatnot. But even in that, in today's day and age where we have access to the cloud and things like that where we can back up to, getting a new phone is still a pain. Because I've got to make sure all my contacts copy over. I've got to make sure all my pictures come through. I've got to make sure old videos of my kids make it through on that. Maybe I had some notes, Lord forbid my passwords wipe out because I can't remember any of those because I've got them all stored on my device and everything else along that lines. So just in doing that transfer personally on that small amount of data that I generate from my phone to a new one is a little bit of a challenge. It's frustrating. And those challenges are, it's a headache, it's to deal with. So if you think about that and you compound it into an organization, you're looking at challenges of expense. It costs a fortune to manage this data, to be able to do it. And most businesses are left with really three ways of dealing with these challenges. And I'm sorry I didn't finish that list, but you look at expense, time, and risk are really the three main ones that we deal with. Expense being really what the cost of doing it. Time is really how long it does. So if a project's going to take 6-8 months to be able to go through and get it done, or if it's going to take a year or 18 months, time is money, and we all know that. And of course, we're in the financial world. Risk is king. So if we're moving data about, say we're sending data outside of our organization, outside of our secure firewall or network, then our risk goes up exponentially. And that's just a bad word, literally a 4-letter word in the financial industry. And what we're left with to kind of tackle those challenges are kind of three suspects that people normally do. Number one, they either do nothing, which is what a lot of people do. I like to call these the usual suspects. They literally let that data sit there. They do nothing with it. It just kind of hangs out. If they have an audit or something for compliance they have to go back and deal with, they literally have to go fish for it. It's a very painstaking process. Number two, a lot of times we'll task internal teams to do it. We'll go get somebody in IT, whatever their role may be, and we'll task them to start creating a data lake or to migrate data lakes together so that we can begin to leverage that amount of data and leverage those analytics. The problem with that is still kind of in the same vein of doing nothing a little bit. Now we're taxing our own resources, which are very, quite frankly, few and far between. Resources that could be going towards initiatives to generate revenue, to enhance efficiencies, that have been hired to do other things are now being tasked on a data process to be able to go back through and find this old data and manage it. Thirdly, a lot of times we outsource this, but we tend to outsource it to our primary vendor, not trying to throw any kind of negativity here, but we tend to go to our primary vendor in the financial world, which is our core company. And our core companies do a lot of things very well, specifically core systems. But the problem is they've got multiple ancillary systems that come up under that, but they're not focused on that. They're focused on core. So what's left is you've got this data project that rolls over to them that's very exorbitant. Number one, it costs a lot because they don't have the focus. Number two, it takes a lot of time. Some of these companies can be looking at 12 to 18 month backlogs to even start. And then also the risk goes up. Majority, if not all, of the predominant 42 major core companies in the U.S. require that data actually be shipped outside of your network to their institution for them to do any kind of conversion or creation with it. And as soon as it leaves your network, your risk goes up.
Right. Okay. Wow. So you really need the best solution. You're saying option number three, or I guess is a slightly different track for option number three is outsource, but outsource to someone who specializes in that and is not just a general player, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, there's a famous quote that a rear admiral in the Navy said years ago. It said the most dangerous phrase in the English language is "we've always done it that way." I've used this quote a lot in my career and in business that, the most dangerous words in business or most dangerous words for a company is "we've always done it this way." And it tends to be a lot of industries are like this, but specifically in the financial world, this tends to be a way that we lean. If it's not broke, don't fix it. We kind of stay with that mentality for a variety of reasons, and some of those very, very good. Again, going back to risk, we haven't had an issue before, so let's not do something different. The problem is with that is that if we stay in that mentality of we've always done it this way, then we lose the ability to capitalize on things we've never done and seen. Again, a great example of this is Amazon. Well, nobody had shopped online for a long time. Or if we did online shopping, it was very few and far between, but they went outside the box. They didn't stay in traditional shopping and whatnot. They went to a complete online, obviously everybody knows about this now, complete online application for that. And quite frankly, my family and I, we buy almost everything we do from Amazon. They went outside the box, did something different, and it's a massive explosion. And people like myself are buying everything from laundry detergent to clothes to fill in the workout equipment on Amazon now. Well, it's the same thing with our financial institutions. If we stay in the rut of we've always done it this way, then the people who are forward thinking, who are thinking past that, who are being creative are going to pass us by. If we stay in the rut of just going to the same old usual suspects, then we're not going to leverage that data like we could and really be able to utilize it. So what am I talking about going outside is to go away from those, go away from the do nothing strategy, go away from the internal teams and taxing them, even go away from leveraging your core provider, which I know is somebody close to you, but it's not their specialty. And instead leverage somebody that focuses on this, somebody that's done work with over 3,000 financial institutions with years of experience of 100% focused on one thing and one thing only, which is managing data converting data, migrating data, all things holistic of data management. By doing that, what you're doing is, A, you're eliminating that cost. You're cutting that way down because now you have a singular focus. It's like anything else. If you're buying an airline ticket and you can get a direct flight for instance, I'm in Birmingham, Alabama, and I want to go to Orlando, I can hop on Southwest right now for like $75. Now, if I want to go to Orlando via Dallas, via Denver, and then to Orlando, it's going to cost me more. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to go that way either. But now by doing it the way I'm talking about on a direct flight, it's a straight line. It's a streamline. Somebody that does one thing and focused on one thing, and that is able to keep the costs low. Same thing here as well. Also, same analogy as time. It's not very time efficient to fly from Birmingham to Orlando going via Dallas and Denver. Quite frankly, you're flying backwards. You're flying all around the country. You're going back in time zones. That's a long day, and I fly a lot, and I don't want to do that. It makes no sense. Same thing again. If you're not going to somebody who specializes in something, it's going to take them longer to do it, just by nature. Then, not to mention, they have other projects that they're a higher focus because that is their specialty. That are going to take precedence over your data project. So your data project keeps getting kicked down the totem pole and down the totem pole so that your lead time goes out. Like I said earlier, some of these are at 12, some of these are at 18 months. And finally, risk. Again, more time you bounce around the country on a flight, the higher your risk goes on that. Just, not wanting to sound, morbid or anything there, but that's, factual. Same thing in going in with that. If you're sending data outside of your secure network and your secure firewall, you're immediately raising your risk. You're immediately opening the door to things happening because now your data is outside of your control and outside of your network. By working with a team like ours who focuses 100% on this data, we're able to actually remote into your secure network, do all the work that we need to do right there at your institution behind your secure firewall so that nothing ever leaves, and it keeps you not only safe and secure, but it gets rid of all those nasty words like breach, risk, and all those things.
Wow, that's fantastic. I can tell you're really passionate about this. And one thing I love about you, Bobby, is that you're not just a data guy; you're a people guy too, right? It's sometimes I think when we talk about data, it starts sounding a little impersonal. It's not so humanized. But I want to maybe ask you this as a closing question. Can you share a story? And you don't have to use names if you don't want to, but share a story about how you and your team were able to help a financial institution harness their data and its impact, and maybe get out of that rut of thinking, let's just always do it the way we've always done it. So that's my final question.
No, and I think that's important. I think we do think of things like a data. Data is a cold, emotionless product and whatnot, and we lose the ability to realize that there is a human element to it of people having to manage it and deal with it and interact with it. I had a partner up in the Northeast that we dealt with, a large financial institution. We had done some migrations for them in the past and worked with them and able to help them save a lot of money, save a lot of time, and get all their conversion and migration work done, which was great and wonderful. Met him at a conference about a year ago, and he was really frustrated because he had multiple data lakes that have been created over years of time of just raw data coming in from multiple systems. I don't remember all the systems, but just for this, whether it was LOS, whatever else, all these data lakes were sitting there. And I remember standing at our trade booth, we were at a trade show, and standing at our booth at the show, and he was very frustrated going, I've got all this data, I've got all this information, and I want to do something with it, but I can't functionally get it together. So we were able to come in with him and work with his team and take all these multiple data lakes and connect them for him and help him actually bring all of this data together. Not only just get it together, but get it together clean, get it together without free and missing images and reports, and get it together in a seamless fashion to where he can run analytics on that data and be able to actually really come up with efficiencies and things for their company. What really led to that is it took the burden off of their IT department. Their staff loved us because they were able to do what they were hired to do. They were able to do their jobs and not have to go around and chase data lakes and all this data and get it all moved around. But it also enhanced them because now we put at their fingertips the ability to actually come up with new ideas and innovative ideas and creative ways to generate revenue or for customer retention based on the data that we were able to give to them and the solutions they were able to come out with it. It was fascinating to listen to their story and fascinating to hear how much an impact, not only at the top of the C level with their CIO, CFO, and CEO, but also everybody that worked alongside with them and who were impacted by that.
Fabulous. Thanks, Bobby. That's just the kind of personal illustration that I'd love to close on. So I appreciate you sharing a little bit about data management, where that industry stands, and some solutions for that. I appreciate your time.
Absolutely, Ben. I appreciate you having me. Appreciate doing the interview, and thank you, everybody, for checking it out.
Awesome. All righty. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks for tuning in.
Have a great day.